I think that you already know that making pizza and preparing a good pizza is not just about mixing ingredients. But in order to prepare the right pizza, in order to prepare a tasty one, you need to follow a process. You need to follow some steps, and you need to make sure that all of the steps are made in the proper way. This is why I prepared this video in order to talk to you about what are the phases and how the process to make pizza is structured, and what are all the steps that you have to follow to prepare the pizza, and most importantly to prepare a real Italian pizza. And as we're talking about Italian pizza, I also will share some of the steps, or better, I will share the steps and the process talking to you with some Italian terms. I think that it will be funny from this point of view, and it will be also useful. So let's get it started and let's talk about the process to make pizza. And as this is not really a hands-on video or hands-on process, because we will be talking about indeed the process, so we will not be put our hands in the flour, I prepared this kind of flowchart, or it's not really a flowchart, but it's more about a summary of the steps that you have to follow to prepare pizza at home. But this is not valid just to make pizza at home, this is valid in general to make pizza. So of course the first step that everybody has to follow, and it's kind of an obvious one, is to prepare ingredients and to mix them. It doesn't matter if you mix them by hand, it doesn't matter if you mix them with a mixer. This is definitely something that you have to do, and it's obvious, as I said before. After you mix the ingredients and you reach the point where the dough is ready, meaning that is elastic in the proper way and the gluten grid is already created, so it's there and the dough is ready to be fermented, you do generally some slap and fold. Especially if you followed my previous video, you know that I also like to do slap and fold after I mix the ingredients, before having the dough having a rest. However, once you finish to mix the ingredients and again you have the dough ready, the second step that you will follow is this one that we call puntata. What puntata is, it's the actually first fermentation. So once you finish to mix the ingredients, you want to have them a rest. So you want to give them a rest, and this rest is called once again puntata. Generally, or better, not generally, puntata is also, and this is really important to mention, is also the phase where you have the dough all together. So you have not yet prepared the dough balls, or you have not prepared the pieces of pizza that you want to use then in the pizza tray or in the baking pan, and you have everything ready all together. So all the dough will be one big piece. You can do puntata in two different ways. The first one is that you do puntata at room temperature. So in this specific case, you have foreseen to do your pizza dough, most probably having the dough having a fermentation and maturation, everything in room temperature. It's not a rule, it's just an option. The second option that you have to do puntata is to have, on the contrary, not this phase at the temperature of the room, but using the fridge. In this case, we say that puntata is happening at controlled temperature. In my case, or better, in the previous video where I shown you how to prepare the pizza for the pizza tray, this is what I did. I prepared the ingredients, I then put them together in one container, and I went to the fridge. The reason for that is because, especially when it's warm, and if you want to keep the dough raising or fermenting for a long period of time, you need to have the fridge helping you in avoiding that the pizza dough will rise too fast. One other information that I want to share with you about puntata is that in this case you also have generally the yeast starting to kick in, and this is a very important phase because this is where the dough is having a rest and the gluten grid starts to have a rest to then give you the elasticity that you need to the next phases. If when the puntata is finished, so either you had the dough having a rest at the room temperature, or you had the dough having the rest in the fridge, then there is the other phase, that is the one of the appretto that I mentioned here. Now, how long puntata will be, that's you can't really establish as in a general rule. So if we think about the Neapolitan style pizza, which is also regulated to be called the Neapolitan style, of course, and to be the verace napoletana, in that case you generally want to have a puntata of a few hours, because in total in the Neapolitan style pizza you generally want to have this, according again to the rules, even if when you do it at home you don't really always care of the rules, but this is generally something that in total you want to have for 8 hours. So what generally happens is that this is done in a few hours, and then the second side, the appretto, is done for a bit more hour. But again, this is not really a rule, and this is something where you have to find your own pace, and you have to find your own recipe, how it works for you. It's again not really a rule, and you can't really answer to the question how long is puntata and how long is appretto. It really depends on the pizza you are doing, the recipe you are following, the way you like the flour to be, and the flour itself. So there are too many variables that you have to consider, so there is not a straightforward answer. By the way, once you finish the puntata, for example, you kept the dough into the fridge and you want to prepare it to have the last fermentation, this is where we prepare the dough to be in appretto. When you prepare, for example, Neapolitan style pizza, in between these two, this is where you prepare the dough balls. So you finish puntata, you take the one piece of dough together and you start creating your smaller dough balls. Same goes if you do the pizza in the baking pan, as I did it in the previous video. Also in this case you are preparing the second fermentation when the dough goes in the last containers before they go into the baking pan. Also in the case of appretto, there is not a rule of how long it is, but in this case you don't have anymore the differentiation between the room temperature and fridge, so we can remove it. And appretto, so this phase, which is once again the last fermentation, appretto will be everything at room temperature. Fortunately, this pen doesn't really work, so let me take the other one. This is always at room temperature. Always. So you can't be wrong. This last phase is at room temperature, and this is generally it can vary from a short amount of time or a bit longer, especially if you kept in the previous phase you kept the dough into the fridge. Generally you need to wait for the dough to go at a bit lower temperature to prepare then the dough balls or the pieces of dough that will go into your tray, and then you will have this appretto phase, which is again at room temperature, and once again you don't have really a specific amount of time that it has to stay. The rule that you want to follow generally is that, especially for the pizza and the baking pan, you have to wait that the dough balls will go up to 2.5 times the size that they were before they went into this last phase. Of course, once appretto is finished, so that is the last fermentation, you can start preparing, stretching the dough balls or the dough in general to then cook it. I hope that I give you a little bit of more understanding about the 4 phases of preparing the pizza dough and the pizza in general. Of course, if you have questions, you can leave me a comment, or you can contact me on my website, and I will be very happy to explain even further. So this is just a small summary to tell you once again that making pizza is not just about mixing ingredients, but you have to follow some process and you have to follow some specific steps. So subscribe to this channel if you would like to have more contents from me, or leave me a comment if you want to have some other details or more details. And if you have questions, once again, contact me on my website or leave a comment here. Thank you very much.